Welcome to Building a Startup Through Community. This is a panel brought to you by Startup with Chainlink. We have some awesome ecosystem startups with us today to talk about what they're doing and talk about how community kind of plays into what they're building. So my name is Brett. I run the Startup with Chainlink program. I also oversee our grant program. But I will give it away to these guys to introduce themselves and their project and their background a little bit.
Great. My name is Jim Nguyen. I'm the co-founder CEO of Six Clovers, and we provide a cross-chain payments protocol for stablecoins.
My name is Brennan Lamy. I'm the founder of Quill. Quill, it's a decentralized database, so it's a SQL-based or SQL-like dialect for deploying permissionless data structures.
I'm Karn Soroya. I'm the CEO of Re. It's a commercial reinsurer that's built like a decentralized Lloyd's of London. Basically, you can earn yield on tens of thousands of households, businesses that are paying insurance premiums across the United States and eventually the world.
Awesome. So this panel is about community. Obviously, it can be used to your advantage in many different ways. Community can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, a lot of different projects. You guys are obviously building very different projects. So I guess first question would be, how did you approach the development of your community, and how did you leverage existing network and communities you were part of in building your community?
Yeah, so for us, we grew a little bit organically out of the Arweave ecosystem is where we started. Quill, it started as a passion project, and I started building it in the Arweave ecosystem. And it really got its start when the founder of Arweave invited me to speak at their first conference. And so speaking at that first conference, getting in front of a couple, investors, getting in front of potential users, it was a great way for us to not have to bootstrap the whole community, but instead, we come into this community that is, one, very engaged, two, very intelligent and up to date with what we're doing, but three, very interested in what we're doing. And so it made it really, really easy for us to get a product, deploy it, and have people who are ready to test it, ready to use it, ready to give feedback. And so it allowed us to really not have to bootstrap that. Now we're trying to sort of expand into the Chainlink community as well, do some of the same things here, just at a little bit of a different stage in the product.
Awesome. So Karn, I got one for you.
Yeah.
How much does the community weigh in on the product you build versus internal direction?
Yeah, so I've built both direct-to-consumer products and now B2B products. I've built things like e-commerce marketplaces that scale to millions of users and at Shopify. Now I build a reinsurer that's in a regulated market with a variety of different constituents. At the end of the day, what you're looking for are the nuggets of value that you can deliver to people when you're solving problems for them. In the context of Re, which is much more B2B, my job has largely been to, kind of skate the middle between a regulated environment and us bridging into a DeFi ecosystem. And so, on the B2B side, it's actually been much heavier, right? Like we've been in conference with regulators, with traditional reinsurance entities, with reinsurance brokers, folks that could help us, bring to bear the nearly $1 trillion of reinsurance, surplus that exists and backs all sorts of risks globally, and find a way to bridge that to capital providers and other folks within the DeFi ecosystem. So I would say it's been, at least within the Re context, much more upfront conversations, significantly more transparency, and then less so, the critical piece has been mostly making sure we look and feel like constituents as they've worked in the past, and having the secret sauce kind of in the background abstracted away. Yeah.
So one of the things I really want to do with Startup with Chainlink is not just build it as an educational platform for startups, but for all the different types of organizations that we deal with, whether that's a traditional organization like an insurance company, a Web2 company looking to kind of move into the Web3 space. I guess a follow-up question for you would be, how much does education play a part in your B2B conversations, your community conversations, and what has your approach been with kind of this big, scary Web3, crypto, Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, it's scary for a lot of traditional organizations.
Yeah, it's been a weird pinch for me, right? Because people in insurance don't understand crypto, and they hear it and they think volatility, and they don't really understand necessarily the infrastructure that could be brought to bear, right, to improve their businesses, reduce administrative overhead, connect to an entirely new pool of capital. And then on the crypto side, people hands up, how many people actually know what reinsurance is, right? It's insurance. Well, there's one person there. It's insurance for an insurance, and it's like, kind of like, you have insurance companies. They're kind of like boats, right? Fishing for policies in an ocean of premium that is reinsurance. And most folks wouldn't have an idea where to even start there, right? And so it actually has been pretty significant, but for two different constituencies.
Awesome. So I have another question for everybody. This is one that I have learned a few lessons from in my startup past, some hard lessons. How have you approached, and feel free to jump in, I don't go down the row. How have you approached talent acquisition, and what is one lesson you've learned from scaling your teams? Because you've all gone from, just a few people to a bunch of people, and that's kind of a really scary challenge.
I can start with that. Talent acquisition is always a tough nut to crack. One of the things that we do is, we're in payments, and domain expertise in payments is required, and I think that's where we have to recruit from. You have to have a certain level of knowledge of payments before you go on, because there's so much fragmentation in payments that you need to really understand at least a segment of payments to really learn adjacent markets. So for us, it's you have to have that capability.
So I guess a little bit of a disclaimer here. We hired our 5th employee like a solid month ago. We just closed our seed round, and so this is something that we are actively tackling right now. But the approach that we're taking is we're being very, very selective. So we're not trying to get 15 people in the office, everyone trying to pile on this product. We're trying to get a few of the best, hardest hitting players, getting them in there, and doing great work. And so, in particular, to highlight our last 2 hires. We had a 3-person team, raised the seed round. So our 4th hire, he, we're doing databases. He was a VP at Oracle. He's been building databases his entire career. And so we really brought him in for a lot of our, he's handling mostly event sourcing and pricing right now. And what's really cool about that is that he has seen, decades of how this has been done in Web 2 and applying a lot of those skill sets to Web 3. There's really not too many other people in the world that could do it, and so we're being really, really selective with who we bring on board. The 2nd employee we brought on, he's expert with microservices, but also lexers and parsers. We have our own dialect for creating the DDL for our data structures, and that allows us to bring a lot of other functionality. I would probably say it's equivalent to Solidity for Ethereum. And so, we aren't out here, even though I'm sort of young, we're out here mostly bringing in senior people and really just trying to get a few of the hardest hitting players. What we sort of decided internally is that for the next 2 years, we want to be able to feed our team with 2 pizzas. And so in doing that, we hope to make a really, really strong team bond, but at the same time have really, really effective players.
I love that rule. I'm gonna put that down in my notes, the 2 pizza rule.
Yeah. I guess it comes down to what kind of stage you're at, right? If you're trying to get to product market fit, yeah, for sure, the 2 pizza rule makes complete sense, and you need folks around the table that are scrappy enough and adaptive enough to be able to solve all the crazy problems that show up. As soon as you have product market fit, though, your job kind of changes from a hiring perspective. Really, what you're trying to do at that point is surround yourself with people that you can learn from, and to an extent, especially at the senior level, kind of make you feel dumb, right? And so I've had the experience of we did YC, and so we were working out of our living room. I scaled an insurance company called Covered. We had headcount of maybe 160 people at some point or another. The common thread there has always been, my feeling has always been, hey, if there are folks that have domain expertise that I don't have access to, I would be remiss to not onboard them, learn from them, and then tightly performance manage them, right? Because the hires that you make early on are going to have severe ramifications for how your company kind of starts to compound and what it looks like and what the culture looks like. over the course of the next couple of years.
I think that point is 100% accurate, and it's something founders often fail to understand. I think as a founder or a founding team, like, you're good at something, right? There's a reason why you're building a company. You're good at this type of programming, you're great at branding or content, you're great at marketing or something, but there's always a knowledge and skill set gap.
Yeah.
And your job, regardless of stage, right, is filling in those knowledge and skill set gaps,
Yeah.
whether that's
Yeah.
maybe you're in YC and you get an advisor or a mentor, or
Yeah, you start off like positively diluted and somewhat naive, right? I didn't know how to build an insurance company. Eventually I hired people that had, right? Didn't know how to start a reinsurer, and now I work with people who have. So, it's kind of like that.
And you don't want to be in the boat where, like, to Brennan's point, being like very, 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 very particular about who you're bringing on early. You don't want to be bringing in the 5th person as your CMO or your VP of sales and then firing them 6 months later and just wasted 150 grand on them, right? So, I viewed talent acquisition as like, startups are always like, oh, clients, fundraising, blah, blah, blah. You really need to be building like an excellent team from day one. So, follow-up question. So teams often don't think they're ready. They wait a while to go to market. They want everything to be perfect. I guess we'll go down the road. How did you know when it was time to start, going to market, talking to clients, talking to initial partners?
Yeah, that question varies on the company, right? So we're a B2B company, payments connecting businesses to pay one another. So you can't have half-baked features and go to market. It's better to have no feature at all and go with what you have than just half-baked. I know that there's some social and more consumer-facing applications that say, hey, you know what, let's A/B test this feature and see how it works. We really can't A/B test where we're at, right? We either have that feature or we don't. And for us, we have to set a minimum viable set of features and go to market with that. And I think that's why we draw the line.
Yeah, so it's really funny Jim brings that up, the difference between consumer and B2B products, because we started as a consumer product. Quill was the infrastructure that a messaging platform sat on. And so for us, we definitely made the mistake of making sure everything was perfectly polished before going to market. And as soon as we got to market, we found out that people really wanted to use the architecture that the social was built on, and maybe not the social itself. And so, we absolutely made the mistake of not shipping soon enough. But then, now that we've made it to market, we have some really awesome customers and some really awesome first users that are giving us really valuable feedback. And so, even over the course of the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks, based on the feedback that we're getting from some of these first customers, we're making really critical decisions regarding the product. That's now allowing us to be able to scale to, reach different markets and different sectors. And it was like sectors that, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I would not have even imagined that we would be trying to tackle it. I might have not even known that they existed or there was really a market there. But now we have a ton of different projects that want us to go there, and we just simply would not have known that if we were not getting this out in the wild and having people use it.
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree. Try to build as little as possible, right? It should be a pull rather than a push. And if folks are really interested in what you're building, they're going to tell you what they want, whether it's in the consumer context or the B2B context. Consumer, you have the law of large numbers. Eventually, you can converge to, hey, what are the feature sets or actions that people are performing, and kind of promote those actions organically. In the B2B context, it's very conversational, right? You've got basic tooling, basic features, and then the future feature is going to be a natural consequence of whatever problem it is that the customer needs solved, right?
So this wasn't on our question list, but I'm going to ask it anyway, so don't kill me for it. I'd love to learn more about where you're finding your initial users, customers, how you went about that, maybe a little bit about that approach. I'm a huge preacher of selling through your network first, right? I was essentially a networker for 5 years of my life, just trying to meet as many people as possible. So I'd love to understand a little bit more about how you're finding those, initial champions, initial users.
Okay, I can start with that. So I want to start with a thesis, how we started 6 Clovers. Our thesis is that stablecoins is going to have a place in the global economy. And just like there are payment rails to move fiat, there needs to be payment rails to move stablecoins across multiple chains. So with that as a thesis, we went to who are the people that are moving money and who wants to reduce the cost of two things we wanted to solve. One is reduce the cost of doing business or moving money. And secondly is how do we approach customers and give them the ability to attract new customers to their Rolodex, right? So that's how we approach the market.
Yeah, I mean, so for us, a lot of our customers have found us fairly organically as of recently. Just a lot of word of mouth, or investors introing them to us. You know, the problem that we were solving for ourselves with our social platform ended up being a problem that a lot of other companies had. And so most of it has been word of mouth, and at this point we have a solid cohort of 9 or 10 companies, many of which are companies in the Chainlink community, in like the Chainlink Build program. And so for us, it's really just been a matter of, I would say that the Arweave community for one, that was like our first initial set of customers, and those are the ones that really nudged us to switch to the infrastructure play. And then the Chainlink community as well, and just like word of mouth from there. And that has given us a really awesome cohort where we can see, on one hand, we're not trying to tackle 5 different problems with only a 5-person team. We can really nail down on what our value prop is, but at the same time, we can sort of see where are the outliers and where's the market. What are like the real problems that a lot of people need solving that we can scale to. And so it's been pretty fortunate just that a lot of these customers have sort of found us in the early days, and that's given us a very strong cohort.
So you're saying Chainlink has been helpful?
Chainlink's been very helpful.
All right,
It's
cool.
been very, very helpful.
I just want to, hopefully a manager's watching. So.
Yes.
Yeah, so on our end, it's largely about being, playing nice with other market constituents and putting the right incentive structures in place, right? So B2B, especially in insurance, there are a lot of brokers. Say what you will about middlemen, they're still pretty active and useful in many contexts for identifying the types of customers that we could be working with. And our job is primarily, to showcase that we're solving a lot of problems for their end customers, and that's like transparency around the capital that we're reserving to be able to pay the claims for the policies that they sell in a way that's supported by Chainlink through proof of reserves, right? Making sure that they understand that there's going to be persistency in the capital, and they can rely on us to be there years down the road. For other folks who are providing capital, there's liquidity, right, in with these long-dated insurance contracts. But I've done all sorts of other things, like in the direct-to-consumer context. I sold high-end fashion on the internet at some point, and back in the days when Instagram had an API, did all sorts of crafty things like build scrapers to scrape millions of users that focus in on fashion influence, parse out their bios, send emails with a variety of different value propositions to drive them to our apps. It's broad spectrum, and it ultimately comes down to what the value is that you're trying to deliver and who it is you're trying to reach.
I love that you mentioned scrapers. I used to use a LinkedIn bot to meet VCs. So I would just have it would go through my second connection and be like, are you a VC? Did you go to my college? Are you based in New York? And say, hey, I'm Brett. I run this accelerator program. Do you want to come speak? And honestly, it worked, right? Every week I was setting up meetings with different VCs, grabbing coffee, and just trying to grow my network however I could, right? All right, cool. So as small teams, when they're growing really quickly, there's a lot of different things that you have to do, right? Some of them you're good at, some of them you're not. How did you guys kind of prioritize your focus when it comes to product development, talking to users, talking to customers, talking to investors? You get pulled in 9,000 different directions, all of them seemingly important, but at the end of the day, some of those are more important than others. So I'm wondering if some of you guys have feedback on how to prioritize things.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to be scattered. If you're thinking about what's most important, it's that whatever you're building, the business, the protocol, it's compounding. And by definition, you need to identify a single variable that is growing at any given point in time and then focus in and around that, whether it's revenue, whether it's users and engagement, because everything else kind of falls into place, right? People want to be part of a rocket ship. They want to know that, and so hiring investors become an order of magnitude easier so long as you're on a trajectory that is going to lead to a large outcome, right? And so my advice would just be focus on a single metric. Whatever it is, move that, do whatever it is you need to do, move that, and everything else kind of falls into place.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we can sort of like, I could probably identify our priorities as, the top 2/3. And so, the first one is, our customers. What are they trying to do? What can they not do right now? And what can we do for them? And then similar with that, and this is where it's like 2/3, is like our product. At the end of the day, that is like our number one goal. How are we driving this forward? How are we, we talk with a lot of our customers. They all have these different needs. How can we solve that? That's our number one priority. And then the second one is our team. So we have a very, very tight-knit team. When you're joining the team, it's not just a technical interview process. It's not just a screening. You have to go out, get drinks with the entire team. Once we hire you, we go out, we take you out to dinner. And so we're really focusing on making sure that we are really solving the needs of our customer and we understand them very intimately. And at the same time, we're building a really strong culture and making sure that our team is on board with what we're trying to do for the customer. I would say that probably identifies 90% of what we try to do on any given day.
So for us, saying no is really important. I think you get pulled in so many directions. But the most important thing that we prioritize is, because it's a product company, can this product that we're developing or feature be reused across our customer base? It shouldn't be really able to be a one-off feature, because that's going to really burn cycles in engineering the whole corporation as a whole. So really focusing on things that are scalable, that can be used by many, many customers and partners.
So I want to echo something you said there in the beginning, which I think is so incredibly important just in life in general, is the ability to say no, right? Whether you're an employee, a founder, a high growth company or startup, you get pulled in a million different directions. This person wants to meet with you, that person wants to meet with you. The last thing you want is you go to your calendar and you see you have 13 meetings today and 10 of them are meetings that you could have pushed off for 3 weeks, right? That's what, if you work in sales, the same thing, right? If you're a sales employee and you're trying to sell someone, you want to get to no as quickly as possible, just like you want to get to yes as quickly as possible. The last thing you want is, hey, come back to me 2 weeks from now. Or a VC tells you, oh, you're too early, come back a couple months from now, right? So I think saying no, getting to know is incredibly important. Otherwise, you just end up wasting your time.
Yep.
We had a mentor come speak at our program from Tachyon. He said, as a startup founder, basically you're always building and you're always selling, right? And every activity goes into one of those two buckets, right? Mm-hmm. Whether that's product, website, UX, the back end, your intercom on your website, your support systems, or your PR, everything, right? But within those 1,000 different activities in those two buckets, you need to understand your time ROI, right? If you're a founder, you're pre-revenue, maybe you have a little bit of runway, maybe you're self-funding, like your time is so incredibly valuable. It's like literally the lifeblood of your organization is your time.
Yeah, the other thing also is if you don't say no, you really burn out your organization. You can feel the organization if you have too many yeses. And, excuse me. Yeah, so I say no on a daily basis to really help our team.
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah,
no.
it's really,
nope,
it's
sorry,
really important.
can't do it.
It's really important. It's not no, but to say, hey, no, not today, maybe tomorrow. We can do that a little later.
All right, so we have a few minutes left. So I guess a bit of a closing question before I ask you guys to plug your stuff or give an ask. Where do you see some of the biggest opportunities to build in Web3? And what industries do you think would benefit the most from Web3? I'm assuming you're all going to pick your own industry, but
Yeah.
I would love your insights.
I can start with that. We live close enough to the mid-90s where we say, hey, the post office was the primary way to deliver mail, and then the internet came, right? So it was the exchange of information. We have an opportunity to really develop the complementary to the internet, which is payments or decentralized technologies to really couple with the internet. So just as the internet opened up a whole brand new economy, the blockchain ecosystem is going to open up something that we can't open today.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, or at least for me, like where I think the opportunities lie is in like the newer sectors of Web3. So if you go back, before 18 months ago, Web3 was almost synonymous with DeFi. Like most Web3 applications were DeFi related. But since then, in the last 18 months, we started to see decentralized science, decentralized social, decentralized gaming, decentralized analytics. There are all these new sectors of Web3 that are opening up because now we have the payment infrastructure to support those. And so a lot of the really, really interesting projects I've seen in the last 9 months, 12 months are building in these new sectors where it's not super competitive, not super saturated, and there's a lot of new ground to be had. And so that's, just looking at the Web3 space in general, I would say that's where, if I were building a new company, I would be trying to focus on that right now. There's a lot of opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super biased, right? I think DeFi continues to compound. Anything that could rely on a decentralized investment pool, any financial product, we're not just talking about over-collateralized lending in this context, is going to find its way into the DeFi ecosystem. Any of these banking products, any of these esoteric products like insurance, reinsurance. Reinsurance is literally $1 trillion of capital sitting around to absorb shock losses from claims that are made for hurricanes, earthquakes, and things like that. It's an order of magnitude larger than the combined market caps of all of the current stable coins, right? So we're talking about, there's already product market fit there. It'll continue to accelerate.
I love it. I love what you guys are building, especially on the insurance side of things. You would never think that all of a sudden insurance would become really cool.
Yeah,
but
this is probably the sexiest thing to happen.
It is. It is.
In a while. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, when you have smallholder farmers in Africa now have insurance, like that's amazing, right? So I guess in close, I would I'm gonna have an ask. So if you're a startup, I would love to have you in the Startup with Chainlink community/program. My little self-plug is it's an open-ended program, meaning there's no start date, there's no end date. Every month is a theme. We do virtual events, we do in-person events, we do mixers with all the startups in the group, we do mixers with Chainlink Labs team members, we connect you to all the people that you want to get connected to that we have relationships with, right? Please come see me at the booth. If you want to apply, it's chainlinklabs.com/startup. I'm happy to talk with all of you about your projects. I have a background, I've ran accelerator programs for 5 years. I've been a founding team member of a Web3 startup that raised capital. So I'm happy to impart any advice, hard lessons learned, and just be a helpful person in general, right? My role here at Chainlink Labs is just to be a good steward of the ecosystem and help all of you out. So that is my not so shameless plug, but if you guys have an ask or parting words, would love to hear from you guys. Carden, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you guys are interested in what we're doing, come see me. I'm very happy to talk your ear off about what I've been up to for the last little while and going through the process of building an insurance company and now reinsure. Yeah.
I think for us, I probably got 2 asks. So the first one, we are hiring right now. We just got off our seed round. We have some of the best, VCs, some of the best backers helping us with this. We're also building a really, really elite team. And so if you think you're going to be the next part of that elite team, come find me. In general, we are hiring for some pretty deeply technical engineers. But if you have a skill set where you think you can bring something to the table for us, come find me. We are based in person in Austin, Texas. And so pretty fun place to live. If you don't live there already, it's pretty great. And so yeah, I think that you can be the next big part of our team. We would love to have you. Second, if you are building a Web3 project, in particular in some of these newer sectors, gaming, science, social, analytics, also come find me. That's more, I would love to pick your brain on what you're building, what your pain points are, because we are really trying to be the infrastructure underpinning a lot of these new sectors. So those are my 2 asks.
Great. Similar, we're hiring across the board. We just closed our seed round, and We've got a stellar team of knowledgeable payments experts, and if there's a partnership here that you'd like to have, that'd be great as well. So look us up. And I want to thank to the Chainlink community. We've joined probably about a month ago, and they really connected us with the whole ecosystem really quickly. So I think it's one of the best communities out there. So awesome job.
Thank you for that. If my manager's watching, please remember that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for the panel. Again, I'm happy to be helpful. Please be helpful to our startups. You know, community rises together. So I'm excited to talk to you all and learn what you all are building. Thanks.
Right.